Hello everyone, this is Rugio Duelis back with another video. I believe it was like a few weeks since I last uploaded. I am here to show you my first place Marincess deck profile. So last time I showed you Salamangre, I went to locals again. This time I actually won a tournament with Marincess. If you guys have been keeping up with the game, you know that this deck recently got some new support. So here it is, the main, the side, and the extra. Let's get started with the deck profile, shall we? Alrighty. So it was a small locals tournament. I believe it was just 3 rounds. I went up against Dinosaurs, Branded Despia, and Magnet Warrior Adamantipator. Went undefeated, so let's get right into it. So for the main deck, let's get started with 3 copies of Marincess Blue Tang. She's probably the heart and soul of this deck, the best starter / extender. You got to play 3 of her, most definitely. Great card. For those of you who don't know, she's basically a Foolish Burial and / also Pot of Duality for the deck, aka reveal the top 3, get a Marincess card, or dump a Marincess monster from the deck to the graveyard. Again, if you're familiar with Salamangre, what Salamangre Foxy, and Salamangre Gazelle do, she's basically those cards put into 1 card. So, yeah, you need her. You run her at 3, not even a question. All right, for the next card of the deck, we run 3 copies of Marincess Spring Girl. She's the newest extender and the newest support card for the archetype. So Spring Girl, she has an effect where you banish a Marincess monster from the graveyard and you special summon her. So again, great extender. She also, when she's used as material for a not Marincess, but any water link monster, she mills cards from the top of the deck equal to the number of Marincess monsters you currently control. And if you manage to mill any Marincess cards, she basically burns your opponent for 200 for each Marincess card. So again, she's good for she's kind of like Blue Tang in a way, although a little bit different. So maybe if you mill certain Marincess cards from your deck, you might be able to recover them, and that's actually good for extending your plays. But she's awesome. Like Blue Tang, you also run 3 of her. Alrighty. Next, the third best extender. I'm sure you guys have seen this card before. It was the very first extender for Marincess. It's Marincess Seahorse. So basically, she's a 1-card link 3 for Marincess. Not on this on your next turn. If you happen to have her in the graveyard, she also special summons a water monster to where Marincess link monster points to. She's a great extender. She used to be the first. Then when Blue Tang came out, became the second. She's probably right now tied with Spring Girl as like the second / or third best extender in the deck. You still run her at 3. She's still good. Like if you get her out, you can get a Marincess link 3 on the board. Again, there's 3 of the very best 3 Marincess monster cards in the deck. Moving on with the monster cards, we play 1 copy of Marincess Sleepy Maiden. She's a level 5. She's one of the new support cards for the deck. So you can special summon her by targeting a Marincess card. Also, in this case, you would want to target the field spell to protect it from being destroyed by card effects. She's really, really good. As long as she's on the field, your field spell cannot be destroyed. Also, she's a 2500 defense wall, so again, you only run her as a 1-up because again, she's a level 5. You would have to tribute to summon her. You never want to do that. So as a 1-up, I think she's perfect. Maybe as time goes by, you might be able to bump her up to 2, but I highly doubt it. I might test her out I might bump her to 2 just to test it out, but right now, she's great as a 1-up. Next, we play more Marincess 1-up cards. So I play 1 copy of Marincess Pascalis. I've seen a lot of people now I'll bump her up to 2 or 3 with the new support cards. Don't get me wrong, she's very good, but I like her as a 1-off because she's vulnerable to hand traps like Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler, so I prefer her as a 1-off. I actually like her graveyard effect more so than her on field, more so than her on summoning effect, because next turn you can just banish her and recur a Marincess spell and trap card from your graveyard. So I really like her graveyard effect more so than her on-field effect, but that's just me. I still think she's underrated. You would still definitely run at least one in your deck, but me personally, I don't like her as a 2-off or 3-off. With the new support, I think 1 is okay, but again, it's all up to personal preference. I am still very good card nonetheless. Next, another Marincess 1-off, which you don't need to run, but I like it as a 1-off with the new support still. Marincess Mandarin. Now, back when we didn't have the newest support, this card you would definitely run like at least minimum 2 copies, 2 to 3 copies. I think 2 was the better ratio, but now with the new support, she's not as necessary as she was back then. So now I think as a 1-off, it's still okay. Some people don't even run her anymore, but I beg to differ. I think she's still a pretty decent extender, but you don't run more than 1. You either don't run her or you run just 1 copy. My honest opinion. She was very useful in the tournament, so again, Mandarin is still a good card. Again, I've already explained what I have to explain about her, so I don't want to reiterate myself. Moving on from there, then I play this. This is my last Marincess monster in the deck, so I play her as a 1-off as well. Marincess Basila Lima. A lot of people don't know what she does. She's not one of the typical Marincess cards you run in the main deck, so first of all, she's level 4. She's a 2100 defense wall. The level 4 is important. The 2100 defense thing, it rarely comes off, but she has multiple graveyard effects. If she's banished, she targets a monster on the field and boosts that monster by 600 points. That power boost is permanent. If you run multiple Marincess trap cards in the deck, you can banish 1 Marincess trap in the graveyard and search for another for a Marincess trap with a different name. But her best effect is if your monsters, any monster in general, does not have to be Marincess, would be destroyed by a card effect. You can banish her and she would protect that monster/monsters from that destruction effect. So that is her most useful effect, and that is what I run her, because that effect can come into play if your monsters have their effects negated or something like that, and they would be destroyed, or any destruction effects. So yeah, I like her as a 1-off. People don't run her, and like, I'm not quite sure they know about that effect, but I still like her. Did she come into play? Not so much, but still. Again, plus the 2100 defense wall is pretty good. I like her as a 1-off. Whether I may cut her or not depends with time, but I still think as a Marincess monster, she's a little bit underrated. All right, let's move on from that and going into the hand traps. So I play one of these, one Ash Blossom. You guys know what Ash does, like kind of like one of the main staple hand traps of Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays. Why I run her as a 1-off, I will explain that in a few minutes. Then I play one Effect Veiler, same thing. One Drill and Lockbird. This hand trap is very crazy in this format in Yu-Gi-Oh. I was not going to main deck this. I was actually going to side deck this card. But from what I've been hearing and seeing online, and people, other Yu-Gi-Tubers and even people in general, pros or players around the country and the world have been doing the fact that this card apparently wins you games sometimes. I've decided to main deck this instead of side decking it. Great hand trap. I think it'll always be great depending on the format. And finally, main deck one Nibiru. Just like Drill and Lockbird, this card is crazy right now. That in this format, don't know if things will change or be the same with this card as well as Drill and Lockbird. But again, also I will explain shortly why I run these 4 hand traps as a 1-off in this deck. Now let's move on to the spells. The 1 copy of the field spell, of course. I used to have main deck 2 of this, but I think 1 is okay. If it does get banished, or your opponent does get rid of this card in a way you can't get it back, well, it is what it is. But you got to keep this card alive. It's kind of like in a way, kind of like the heart and soul of the deck. There is another way you can win with this deck, but more on that a bit later. Then we main deck 2 Pot of Desires. This card came back to 2 in the recent ban list. You need as much draw power as you can. You could banish the field spell off of this face down. It is unfortunate, but again, you need the draw power. So 2 of this, get that draw power out. Marincess needs as much draw power as possible. The archetype does not have like its own pot of greed yet, so this will have to suffice. Plus, this is good enough anyway, so... All right, moving on from there. We play 3 copies of the new Marincess spell card, which is Marincess Dive. So this card, it is awesome, it's great. It's a monster reborn for the archetype. If you don't control the field spell, if you resolve it, you're locked into water, but that doesn't matter because the deck is pure water anyways for the most part. It also, the second effect is if you do have the field spell on the field and you resolve this, it's basically an emergency teleport for the archetype, which special summons a Marincess monster from the deck, which that's really crazy, but only if you have the field spell. If you don't have the field spell, it's a monster reborn for the archetype. Still, great card to have nonetheless. You play it as a 3-up, most definitely, unlike the field spell. And now, the next spells. Now the reason why I play these 4 hand traps as 1, double crossout designator. This was not used in the tournament. I did not resolve it, unfortunately. It didn't come into play. It didn't have it. Wasn't necessary for at least for this tournament. But still, it's good to have this card specifically against Nibiru because this deck is very vulnerable to Nibiru. Sometimes it can be vulnerable to Effect Veiler and Ash Blossom, so again, that's why I play as a one-off. I don't run this deck as a heavy hand trap deck, more so like I just want to combo off and get to my Link 4 or Link 3 as fast as possible. The crossout designators are there to just make sure that happens. All right, moving on. Then I play triple copies of Signet Mining. You need to get to the Blue Tang, the Seahorse, or the Spring Girl as fast as possible. So you have to run three of this, yes or yes. Let's keep going. Then we play these 2 cards which are limited. I play 1 Day of Peace. This will keep you alive for a turn. Like Salamangreat, this deck can recover pretty quick, more or less. But again, it's more so like to buy you a turn. If you resolve this going second or first, like you're guaranteed a turn next turn. Maybe you do your combo and then you can recover your opponent knowing that he cannot OTK you going second if you resolve this. So then the other one-off, of course, the 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Again, make sure those Ashes and those Effect Veilers or Drone Lockbirds don't stop you from playing the game and comboing off. And now, the last few spells in the deck. Let me fix this a little bit. I main deck 1, Twin Twister. Back row is still a thing. Mystic Mine, decks like Eldritch, or any other like back row deck, like let's say Altar guys, even Floowandereeze with their field spell and trap card. Also, Subterra Guru. You know, any type of back. Also, Floodgates. This is awesome. I main deck 1 just in case because there can be those times where you need to. Where going second, you resolve this, or like, if your opponent plays a lot of back row, you just pop it with Twin Twister. I would say this card is better than Cosmic Cyclone in this format for decks like Marincess. Then I play, to finalize the spells, 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This card is really crazy in this deck. It is far better than Dark Ruler No More in this deck. Why? For those of you who know about Marincess, you equip the Link monsters from the graveyard. If you play this card, you can prevent your opponent from playing the game, or like prevent him from comboing off, because this can send the Marincess spells and traps from in the back row to the graveyard, and you don't have to waste your resources. You don't have to send your monsters or cards from your hand to resolve this, which is great. And again, this card, depending on what you send, it says that your opponent cannot literally respond to it. It's awesome. This card is, I would say, it's almost like a staple, just like the Marincess cards. In it, you play 3, maybe 2 if you feel like you're breaking a lot. But again, let's continue. Now for the trap cards, we run 6 traps in this main deck. Triple copies of Marincess Wave. This card is like the lifesaver of this deck. You resolve this 9 times out of 10, you're winning the game, most likely. It works with the Marincess Link monsters, specifically with the Link 3s and the Link 4s. You resolve this from your hand. You're 9 times out of 10 you're winning the game. And finally, in the main deck, we are main decking 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. It's again hand trap, just like Ash, Valor, Droll, Logbird, and Nibiru. I choose to play 3 imperms over more impermanences over the hand traps, because again, like this card, it cannot be stopped by stuff like Called by the Grave. It can get around some other cards, not Crossout Designator, but most other cards that try to stop hand traps. So I decided to max out on this, and it worked perfectly. This card actually kind of saved my life, I believe, in the second duel. I had to resolve 2 of these to stop my opponent from like going completely off. So, and that is it for the main deck. Now let's go on to the side and the extra decks. For the extra deck, I'm playing 2 Marincess Blue Slug, 1 Marincess Sea Angel. I've seen people start to play the extra deck 2 of this, because this searches for the field spell or the new spell card Marincess Dive. I might bump this up to 2, but right now I like it as a one-off. Having 2 was not necessary for this tournament, but that might be subject to change. Then 2 Coral Anemone. You need to run at least 2 or 3 of this. Like you don't just run 1 of this card. This card is very good and too good for the archetype. So you run it as a 2. If you want to bump it up to 3, again, all up to personal preference. 1 Splash Mage, just as important as Coral Anemone, although slightly different. Again, this card is just as important for the archetype. It's just way too good. Great extender. 1 number 4 Stealth Kraken. This goes in hand with a card in the side deck. More on that in a few minutes. 1 Wonder Heart. Most people don't play this card anymore. It used to be the former boss monster of the deck. It's still good. I would run her as a one-off, because there's a way you can kind of OTK with her depending on the situation. Then I play 2 copies of Marble Rocks, still very good. The best, in terms of OTKing, the best Link 3. She recycles a Marincess card from your graveyard, 1 heart once per turn on the field. Then we play the 1 Crystal Heart. With this on the field spell, you make your Marincess Link 3s and 4s, or any Marincess Link monster, unaffected by all card effects. The newest Link 3 and member of the archetype, the new support, Coral Triangle. So her effect, she's a Link 3, and she's 1500 attack, unfortunately, but her effect is very great. Discard a Marincess or a water monster, I believe, and you add Wave, which is the trap card that I play in the main deck. You basically search it off. So great, now we have a way to search the trap card with her. That's kind of like her main purpose in this archetype. Then we play 1 Access Code Talker to make sure we get those OTKs real quick. You can use Marble Rock, turn this thing into 5300 attack and pop a card on the field, and this just go for the OTK. Then another former boss monster of the deck. Now she's probably relegated to the second best, but it's fine because she's still very good and underrated, and you can bump her up a lot. Great Bubble Reef. She gains attack points when a monster is banished, yours or your opponent. Special summons a Marincess monster that's banished. So again, she's still really good. With the field spell, you can bump her up to 46 and beyond. And the newest member, and now the new boss monster of this deck, Marincess Aqua Argonaut. She's also a Link 4. She's weaker than her other Link 4 sisters, but what makes her unique is that lingering continuous effect. As long as she's in the extra monster zone, your opponent cannot attack another monster besides her. So she protects other Marincess monsters or monsters in general from your opponent destroying them by battle. Also, the equipped cards that she's equipped to with thanks to the field spell, you can she's an Omni Negate for spells and traps. That's right. By special summoning one of your Marincess Link monsters in the back row to the main monster zone. So again, she also has like a Compulse effect, but only during your turn, which bounces one of your opponent's monsters by you bouncing a water monster on your side of the field. So again, that's the main reason she's the new boss monster. She is crazy awesome. Her artwork is pretty awesome, amazing as well. Now to finish up the deck profile, let's go to the side deck. I'll try to go really quick with it. I think it's been almost 20 minutes with this video. So for side deck, 1 Alpha the Master of Beasts for going second and bouncing stuff. 1 Dino Wrestler Pancratops, which is limited. This came very handy in the tournament. 1 Red Reboot for back row. 1 Harpies for the Duster for back row. And newly limited on the list, 1 Change of Heart. If your opponent plays something that's annoying and that can stop you from playing the game. Then 2 Lightning Storm on the side. 2 Evenly Matches to break boards. Again, just board breakers. 1 Pot of Avarice. I might main deck this in the future. I didn't. This does not time to play. This card is better for like the grind game, later stages of the game, to recycle your Marincess and draw 2. 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. I'm sure you guys know what this does. This is more so for cross-out target. If my opponent ever decides to use this against me, then I know that he's playing this, and then I just take it out and like use it as cross-out target to prevent my opponent from popping the field spell. 1 Godarla, a Kaiju, for Floowandereeze, because they get the barrier statue. I cannot play the game, so it's more so for Floowandereeze more so than anything. But maybe unaffected monsters, because some annoying stuff that can stop me from playing the game. And finally, the card that goes with this guy, with the Stealth Kraken, the only XCs I play in this deck. 3 copies of Gozen Match. You get this out, plus the Stealth Kraken and a Marincess boss monster, you're most likely going to win the game, for the most part. Unless your opponent has like some crazy type of back row removal or like can extend further. This, plus the XCs, plus the Marincess boss monster, it's kind of an auto win for the most part. It also protects you from being Kaiju'd, unless they're running the Water Kaiju, which is the Gamma Seal. Yeah, but that's it. That is my Marincess deck profile. Came in first place. A reminder, I believe my matches were, again, Dinosaurs, Branded Despia, and Magnet Warrior Adamancipator. Yes, and Magnet Warrior Adamancipator was my toughest matchup for this duel. I almost literally did not win. But again, that is it. That is the deck profile. I like this deck. I built it when it came out back in the Link format. Awesome deck. Was happy to see the new support. Got it. Tested it out at locals, and I ended up winning the whole thing. And I could not be prouder. I will try my best to make this deck better in the future. Win more, of course. All right, everyone. Have fun and play if you can. You guys can do it. Play the deck that you want. Don't let anything or anyone stop you. And just have fun. Apologies. Have fun. Once again, play if you can.